practicalities that we need to address. Now, I'm going to finish off a little bit about Turing the human being. Turing thought incredible thoughts, and it was part of it was being who he was. There was a humanness involved in what he did, and as we know, as we've come to believe, there's no such thing as a universal intelligent machine. The human race has many instances of intelligence, and they work together to collectively produce results. And Turing had one type of intelligence which has been important to us in history. Now, one of Turing's individualities was that he did like to be by himself a bit, and he liked to run by himself. And he was actually a very good runner, and he did, I don't know how many marathon runners there are here, but he did 2 hours 46, which I'll bet, no, has anybody here done 2 hours 46? No? I don't personally know anybody who ran as fast as that on a marathon. Anyway, he hit troubles. The world itself is not a computing machine. It's a computing machine. It's not a Turing machine. The world has the habit of surprising us. And Turing ran into great personal problems in his last 2 years. As people will know, he was gay, and so nowadays we allow people to be individuals in their personal life, and people's sexuality is their own affair as far as we're concerned nowadays. Back in those days, people had a less enlightened view of these things, and there was a court case in which he was convicted. And there wasn't because people weren't allowed to know what he'd done during the war, for instance. He was not protected from the power of the law, and very bad things happened to him. And it was only 2 years later he committed suicide. Well, we don't know why he committed suicide, but we do know that. The way in which he committed suicide has entered into the iconography of IT, if you like. So here's a nice image from Hong Kong. Actually, there's a journalist called Lo Clay who I'm still waiting to meet, but some of you may know she writes in Apple Daily, I think, about Turing, and she's written some nice pieces about Turing and his contribution to IT, and. This apple is by the artist Dean Singh. Now, of course, there's a bit of mythology, which is that people have thought over the years, well, the famous Apple logo is surely based on this icon from the history of Turing. Well, Steve Jobs says, well, it's a nice idea, I wish it was true, but actually the design came out like this for other reasons, for purely more practical reasons. But people still like to think, well, when they see the Apple Macintosh logo, they think of Turing. Now, it was by 2009 we were living in a different world. We were living in a world with computers, which was very much the legacy of Turing. And it was thought, well, isn't it about time that we apologise to Turing for the disgraceful way that we treated you back in the early 1950s? And there was a petition started to the government, supported by famous people like there's scientists, media personalities, and so on. And it got over 30,000 signatures, and the Prime Minister at the time intervened and came out with a very sincere and in some ways moving statement, apologising to Turing, a little late, but apologising to Turing for what had happened to one of our greatest heroes, an international figure, not just a UK figure, and one which we should have done more for world science and world IT to protect. Oh, there's Rodney Brooks, by the way. Rodney Brooks with one of his computing machines. Now, Turing had one student. Now, Robin Gandy is special to me because I met him when I went to Manchester in 1968. He was Turing's only PhD student, and he was a very charismatic figure. And I showed this picture last night. It's one of my favourite pictures. It's full of eccentricity. It's full of the peculiarities of the human person. And it's very much tied to Oxford, I think. And you look at these people, and you see there's Andrew Hodges, who wrote the best biography of Turing, and there are people, gay people mainly, that Turing would have enjoyed the company of if he'd lived longer. Robin Gandy was responsible for the collected works of Alan Turing. And I'm afraid he took 43 years to produce the collected works, and he actually died before the final volume came out. And my supervisor, Mike Yates, his student, was the person who finished off this project. There's not much in London commemorating Turing. I mean, most of Turing's life was spent in other places. He was born in London. He was born in a nursing home, which is now a hotel. You can go and stay there. It's called the Colonnade Hotel. And there's a plaque been placed on the building. And there's Andrew Hodges, who wrote the fantastic biography of Turing. And he made this rather moving oration at the unveiling of this plaque. And I'm going to read it, because every time I read it, I find it very moving. He finished off his oration saying, it is the greatest honour to unveil the place where Ethel Sarah, his mother, gave birth on 23rd of June 1912. My sentiments are not the same as those that impelled her to rediscover her dead son and tell her story. What she did after Turing's death, she wasn't a scientist, but she investigated Turing's work, and she wrote a book talking both about Turing's life and about his work, not at Bletchley Park. She didn't know anything about that, but his work in mathematics and so on. And she put effort into understanding this. It's kind of nice that she did this, and she talked to various people. And the book, she self-published essentially. There was only like 300 copies of it published at the time. Some people still have the original copy, which is very valuable. Anyway, so my sentiments are not the same as those that impelled her to rediscover her dead son and tell her story. But I hope she would recognise an echo of her language when I conclude. The law killed, but the spirit gives life. And I think nowadays we kind of see Turing's spirit through all sorts of computer achievements. We see it through our laptop, through the way we live our lives in the IT world. And we see it in the sort of questions that are still unanswered, and still the new vistas in IT which are still to be discovered, and the questions that are still to be answered. There are various books that I think are worth pointing to. One of the nice things about the Turing Centenary is that Sarah Turing's book has actually now been reissued by Cambridge University Press. It'll sell rather more than 300 copies this time. I think it's going to be very, very popular. There's Andrew Hodges' book reissued, and there's a collection of Turing's work with commentaries from leading people, which is going to also appear very soon. And I'm going to finish there. Apologies for going on too long. I didn't watch the clock, and I'm sorry if I kept you from your lunch rather longer than
Thanks a lot. Should we give the souvenir to Professor?
Sorry, I realise you're all very busy people, and some people have to rush off, I'm sure.
Well, thanks a lot for giving such a